Long before the red earth roads were worn smooth by countless feet, before the drums of one generation fell silent and the drums of another began to speak, there stood a village called Umuoke beside a winding river that glittered beneath the sun like strips of beaten silver. The village sat among tall iroko trees and broad stretches of yam fields where the wind moved in slow waves and carried the scent of damp soil and wood smoke. It was a place where people trusted what they had always known and feared what they could not explain. One season, when the moon was fat and bright and the women sang harvest songs deep into the night, a child was born to a humble potter named Nadi and his wife, Adaraku. The labor lasted until the roosters called the coming dawn. Then the child arrived, healthy and strong, with a cry so loud that sleeping birds burst from nearby trees. Yet joy did not remain long inside the house. For the boy's hair was white. Not grey like an elder nearing the end of life. Not pale from sickness. White like fresh cotton. White like moonlight resting upon water. The women who helped with the birth looked at one another. Their smiles vanished. Their whispers spread faster than dry grass catching fire. Before sunset, the entire village knew. People gathered beneath the great Udala tree and shook their heads. Some claimed the child carried the mark of wandering spirits. Others insisted an ancestor had returned in anger. A few swore that such a birth could only invite misfortune. The child received the name Obinna, but few spoke it kindly. As the years passed, children avoided him. Mothers pulled their sons and daughters away whenever he approached. Traders turned their faces aside when he entered the marketplace. Even when droughts spared the village, people credited the gods. When floods destroyed crops, they blamed the boy. The seasons came and went. Obinna grew tall and quiet. Because few people welcomed him, he spent his days listening. He listened to old men telling stories beneath shade trees. He listened to hunters discussing tracks and trails. He listened to farmers arguing about weather and soil. He listened to the river speaking against stones. People thought loneliness had made him weak. They were mistaken. The ears that listen often gather treasures the mouth cannot find. One year, a terrible problem came upon Umuoke. The river that fed the farms began to shrink. Day after day the water retreated. Fish disappeared. Wells grew shallow. The earth cracked beneath the sun. Women walked farther each morning searching for water. The elders offered sacrifices. Diviners cast sacred objects upon the ground. Drums sounded. Prayers rose. Still the river continued to vanish. Fear entered every compound. One evening, while many sat worrying beneath the fading light, Obinna remembered something he had heard years before from a wandering blacksmith. The traveler had spoken of a hidden blockage that once strangled a river many valleys away. Fallen earth and stones had trapped the water near its source. The next morning, before dawn painted the sky, Obinna followed the river upstream alone. He walked for hours. Past thick forests. Past giant rocks covered with moss. Past places where few villagers had traveled. At last he found it. A section of hillside had collapsed after heavy rains many months earlier. Mud, trees, and boulders had formed a barrier across the river's narrow beginning. Behind it sat a growing lake, trapped and unable to flow freely downstream. Obinna hurried back to the village. But when he explained what he had seen, laughter greeted him. The elders dismissed him. The farmers mocked him. Even those whose wells had nearly dried refused to believe him. How can wisdom come from a cursed child? People murmured. Days passed. The river became thinner. The crops began to fail. Then an old widow named Olaredo stood before the council. She was nearly blind, yet her mind remained sharp as a newly forged blade. She reminded the elders that truth does not change because of the mouth that speaks it. Her words settled heavily upon the gathering. At last a group agreed to investigate. They followed Obinna upstream. There, exactly as he had described, stood the blockage. Silence fell upon the men. No one laughed. No one mocked. For many days the villagers worked beneath the burning sun. They cut fallen trees. They moved stones. They cleared the passage little by little. Then, on the seventh day, the barrier broke. Water surged forward. It rushed through the valley with a sound like 1,000 drums greeting the rain. The river returned to its ancient path. The thirsty land drank deeply. Wells filled. Farms revived. Fish returned. Umuok celebrated. Songs rose into the evening sky. Palm wine flowed. Drums echoed until dawn. Yet amid the joy, another silence appeared. The silence of shame. The villagers remembered every insult they had spoken. Every doorway they had closed. Every glance of suspicion. Every cruel whisper. For years they had judged the boy before learning his heart. The oldest elder rose before the gathering and called Obinna to stand beside him. Looking upon the young man with white hair shining beneath the moon, he confessed the village's blindness. The crowd lowered their heads. One by one, people asked forgiveness. And from that day forward, no one called Obinna cursed again. As seasons turned into years, he became one of the most respected counselors in the region. Travelers crossed rivers and forests seeking his wisdom. Children sat eagerly around him, listening to stories beneath the same udala tree where fear had once ruled men's hearts. And whenever he spoke, he reminded them of a lesson greater than rivers and greater than drought. A calabash may be painted with strange colors, yet still carry the sweetest water. The eye that judges too quickly often walks beside ignorance. The heart that listens before condemning is the heart that discovers truth. And so the people of Umuok taught their children, and their children's children, that what appears unusual is not always evil, what appears different is not always dangerous, and wisdom may arrive wearing a face the world does not expect. That is why, even now, among those who remember the old stories, people say that the brightest light is often mistaken for a shadow before its true nature is known. The end.